we see a lot, especially now. I see a lot about. I think there's another one of your questions. The ULs and the UILs and all them life insurance policies and this, that, and the other. Like, man, those are sophisticated products.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, hey man, I'm gonna put this money in there and become my own bank and do this. That doesn't work for $20 a month. It really does. It really doesn't work for $20 a month.
Right,
If
right.
I got $2 million I can put aside, it works great.
Yeah.
And here we go. You're listening to the Kings Can Move On podcast with your hosts, Jason Stewart and Frank Rainey.
What's up, Cyber World? This is Kings Can Move On, Frank Tank. What's happening?
Well, little Jay, what's up with it, man? Welcome to the podcast, everybody. What's up, man? What's up?
Yeah. How's everything going? We got a special guest. Jay, introduce our guest tonight, brother.
We do got special guests. We got Mr. Mike Redix, good friend of mine, my golf buddy,
Golf partner.
golf partner. Mike has quite a past. We're going to talk about a few things with him tonight. Everything from his time in the military to his financial services and to insurance services. So we're going to do a lot to inform you people out there tonight.
Yeah.
What we trying to do?
All sorts of new styles and flavors,
Yeah, but
provocative.
well, first things first, though, man. I'll ask you, man, because you made a comment right before we started hit record on this. You made a comment about the Chiefs. I mean, what kind of problem do you have against the greatest team in the world? I just want to know that.
Oh, no, I got no problem with the Chiefs.
Okay.
I'm all right. We'll live with Mahomes. He's from Texas, so I'll ride.
Okay, I know we need to end this short right now, or what? I mean, we just need talk.
Yeah,
Ain't no beef, huh?
No, ain't no beef.
Ain't no beef. Who's your squad, man?
Anybody that beating the Cowboys. That's who I roll with. No, I'm a football fan, man. I grew up an Oilers fan, so love your blue. That was me, and then they moved to Tennessee, so I kind of follow the Titans. I run with the Texans, but I'm kind of a free agent. When I was in Arizona with the Cardinals, we used to go to those games. And I just like the sport, man. I don't really have a squad per se.
Okay.
I'm not a Cowboys fan.
He's just anti-Cowboy.
Yeah, even though I'm a native Texan, they think that's blasphemy, but not around here.
Man.
What my boy said the other night, Jay, at the place, he said any team to start with Houston.
We had one dude said, I'm so H-Town. He say, in my garage, I got Swingers and Vogues right now on my ride.
on the lack right now.
He said, I'm so H-Town. Right. For anything Houston. Houston Texans, Houston Oilers, Houston Astros, Houston anything.
I know that's right. I'm Kansas City. I'm same way Kansas City. Shit, I understand.
I love it.
Yeah, H-Town. But Mike, you're not from Houston originally, huh?
I grew up in San Antonio, Texas. Real quick, a little bit about Mike Redix. Born in a small town called Seguin. Grew up in San Antonio, area called Kirby. Going to shout out the Judson High School Rockets. That's how we did it. If you don't know about them, just Google that shit. Big football school here in Texas, and we did a lot back in the day. And so grew up in San Antonio. I know this is coming, so I did a little time in the military. Went civilian. I did my time. I did my 7 years, 7, 8 years, whatever they wanted. And then went into civilian world. And I didn't get to Houston. My parents got here in 92. I didn't get here until 12. So spent a lot of time back and forth, especially with the Rockets back in 94, 95. It was always down here, but I always lived in San Antonio. But, life was good and finished school, all that good stuff. But
so you went to the military right after high school?
Yes, sir. Had to get out of Dodge, man. It was getting dangerous. You know what I mean?
Which branch you go to? Army?
Army. Yeah, it was getting dangerous back in 86, 87. And I was like, let me get out of here and go do something before I get myself in some real trouble. And I want to shout out Mama Trish, Miss Trisha Reddick. She she used to come down from Austin, man, and she was in the National Guard. And so she'd come and spend weekends with us. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew she was an officer. And she'd come down and, man, let's crash, with the folks, whatever, my dad's cousin and mom's best friend. And she used to always come down and on the week, that once a month drill, like, what are you doing again? Like, well, I'm in the Texas Army Guard, I'm a nurse, et cetera, et cetera. So when, I had a couple of college options, but not many because I wasn't really a student back then. And so when time came up, I was like, my dad was a military guy, Vietnam vet, Coast Guard vet. And so I was like, I'm going to go to one of them. So I talked to the Air Force, Coast Guard, but the Army could get me out the fastest. And I didn't need to leave, but I wanted to get out sooner than later. And so I ended up joining the Army. And just real quick, I didn't know that Air Force is technical, Army is tactical. I wasn't one of them bush guys staying out in the bush and all that. It was definitely an eye-opening experience.
So did you have to go out and were you there during any wartime?
Yeah. So I did my basic in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. My first MOS or school was for avionics, which was like electrical radio repair. And then after I came out of that, I went back and I went to air traffic control school. So I was actually an air traffic controller. We got deployed to Desert Storm in Saudi, 1991. Desert Storm veteran. I don't share that too often, but you're young, man, so you don't know any difference. I was 19. I turned 21 in the desert, so I didn't have wild parties and all that. We was sitting under the stars talking to Muhammad. You know what I mean?
So what was that like, dog? Being out there in the middle of that Desert Storm stuff.
It was actually pretty laid back because as a controller, you're on the backside of things. So we had plenty of support, food, all that, all your normal activities. Until the Scud missiles shot over our head and the Patriots shot them down, and you saw that stuff fall out the sky. That's when I thought, okay, it's kind of getting real, and I want my mama. It's time to go home. But we were safe. As a controller, you're not that guy. Bang bang. So I know one of the questions is about military. Not everybody is a trained killer. You know what I mean? Like you learn the basics. But I never fired around. I don't have no kill stories, none of that, man. We never got in the room and sprayed. No, not at all.
How long did you stay in?
7 years. 7 years.
That's right. Minimum?
8, 7, 8.
8. Okay.
By the time we did,
you wouldn't look to be a career soldier. Then you was just.
Well, I had a motto growing up, and again, it goes back to knowledge. When I joined, that old commercial about pick a service, pick a challenge. And so, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, a great place to start. I just didn't want to finish there.
Yeah.
Okay. But I knew it was good training and definitely gonna help pay for school. I needed that help. And like I said, I needed to get away and change my environment a little bit. Now, I'm a fast forward and we'll come back. But later in my career, when I'm working at USAA and I'm seeing people who joined about my age at 18 years old, and they're retiring at 38 with a pension, which is a paycheck every month or every 2 weeks,
right,
full benefits, and this, that, and the other, and you're 38 years old with a certificate to go to college and do what you want to do, it's not a bad career option. You know what I mean? It really.
Do you feel like they brainwash you though? So, because I'm gonna tell you like this, I hate the government.
Disclaimer for those that don't know.
Frank.
No, I dislike a lot of. I have disdain for a lot of.
There he goes again. Ding. I'm gonna play my little bell. Yeah, there's a certain level of. Again, it's just basics. So you learn a new language, you learn how to march, you learn how to fire, you learn how to clean, you learn how to. So yeah, there's a definite brainwashing going on. And again, depending on your background, you'll be like, no, I don't ever want to touch the military, but it's not a bad place. I think a lot of what we see today could have been fixed if people had a little bit of time in the service. Not a lot. You don't have to do a whole 20 years, but just a little home training, man. We see it in the streets now. A lot of these cats, they just missing home training, like
basic home training.
Basic home training.
And I'll say the positive that I can say with the government is it teaches us a level of discipline. It'll teach you a level of discipline. especially for people who don't have it at all,
Yeah.
or have very little of it. So it'll teach them a level of that. But I just had a problem
No,
with
it's a
that.
lot of
It's a lot of is in the military. You still have a lot of freedom to screw up. You know what I mean? Like I was thinking about. I saw your questions, and I was thinking about my boy Manny when he joined the Navy. He was a year ahead of me. I mean, he loved the Navy. That's all he talked about was the Navy. So when he first came back, he was like, "Man, we've been on the ship, we've been to ports in Italy and Spain, and we did all this, but he still got kicked out for drugs.
yeah.
Mhm.
He was out there smoking, and man, he ain't been right ever since because he missed that. Now I got another partner went in the same time as he did. He did his 20 years. He's actually here in Houston somewhere,
Yeah.
doing his thing and living life. And it looks
Mhm.
great, so it just depends, I
No,
think
I
in
mean,
our inputs.
Mhm.
I have family. My grandfather was a vet. I have uncles that were vets. Uh, I respect, the men and women. It wasn't really for me. I remember back in school, they would come through recruiting off. They would come through
Mhm.
the school. Hey, young
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
what you gonna do after school?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
more
Not
school. How you gonna
right.
pay for it? Like, bruh. And we was like in school, and like the war had broke out like shortly after I think.
Yeah.
The year we graduated, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, dude, what the hell you trying to do to me? But
Hmm. Trying to get you out there as soon as ASAP.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I didn't even look into it. I've learned a lot since then about you test, to certain levels of the military. Either
Right.
you be
Right.
out in the field or you can be behind a desk or whatever. I didn't learn all that stuff. But I wasn't really interested, but I know it's good for a lot of people. If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube and rate and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. I just know, I remember I had an old cat tell me, man, you don't want to join the white man's army, blah, blah, blah. I was
And
like,
I should go get I mean, real quick, while I have it. Like I said, my dad's a vet, Vietnam vet. Thank you, Dad. My uncle Fred, he lost his legs
yeah,
at 18, and this is Vietnam, so 67, 68. I was born in 69.
yeah,
Man, and again, it took his whole life for me to realize he wasn't really active that long because he was home. He had died, and then we found he had box like you see in the movies, man. My grandmother had a box of stuff sitting there. I'm like, whose is this? And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out who in our family has a Purple Heart. But he lost
yo,
his,
man had one?
no, my
My
uncle,
uncle.
Uncle Fred.
Oh, okay.
He
Okay.
lost his legs from the knee down.
Mm.
I mean, when I really went back, started reading all this, like, dude, he wasn't in the army but about 8 months.
Wow.
Went to high school, went to basic, went to AIT, came out, got to Vietnam, boom, I'm home by Christmas.
Wow.
You
You
know,
know, I know once you are, a military person, it's like a brotherhood, and so forth. But I just wonder, like I said, I never served, but I just wonder how much of it mimics the outside world. Like, did you experience any racism when you was in the military?
not really. Now, where I was being on the enlisted side, there was racism and it was green. You know what? Everybody was green. It wasn't no colors. Now, there were some people from Louisiana, a couple of us from Texas, some hard heads out of Chicago, and the projects out in Oakland. So, I mean, it was a diverse, very diverse group, but you have to figure out how to get along. You still have your cliques, the white folks ran with the white folks, black folks ran with the black folks, that
Excuse
kind
me.
of stuff. Bless
Thank you.
you. But I'm sure there is, but a lot of it, if I did experience any, it was back home at my unit. You know what I mean? And I'll never forget this one dude. He just, and probably by default, he didn't know he's doing it. But we were young black kids or teens, really, because we were all 19, 20 when we get back to the unit. And he just having these assignments. He kept saying, all right, boys. And I was like, you know what? That don't really sit well with
Yeah,
me.
this rubbed me the wrong way.
Private. You can call me shithead. You can call me whatever you want on the military side, but do not call me boy. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to take that up the chain and say, look, because again, even in the guard, you do some crazy stuff, fighter officers like that, you're in real trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Put up the chain of command and said, look, you know, I get it. We're the privates of the group, but you can't call me boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's going to cause a problem, and then it's going to really be a problem. And
Yeah.
it was
Well,
fixed like that.
I'm a fast forward you so we can get to your good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you know what? I did want to ask something, and I don't know if you know the answer, but I always wonder. You know, we're always being told respect our veterans. You know, all this and so forth. But I see so many vets come home and
Mhm.
get disrespected. You know, a lot of homeless vets, a lot not getting the care they need from the VA. What? Why is that? What happens?
I really don't know about it. I saw your question, so I thought about that. But I know what I do know is this: a lot of veterans that are homeless, they want to be homeless. You know what I
Is it
mean?
because of the mental
There's,
issues?
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, just there's services available. You know, like you can get. I'll give you an example. My uncle, he was out there for a minute. We'll talk about that later. But he was out there for a minute. But when he decided to get cleaned up, man, they cleaned him up. They put him in a place. He's living great in an apartment, not no jail.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got his own place. They take care of him. But you know, a lot of people don't want to live by those constraints. You know what I mean? They still want that freedom to move and come and go as they please. And you can't tell me what to do with my money. And I mean, and even in that complex, there's a lot of old vets, and they still got them old problems, man. I'll talk about Uncle Fred a lot because he taught me a lot. You know, being disabled at such a young age, you know, he benefits. He was working at Sears, and I mean, you know, we were growing up, man. Uncle Fred was killing it. Drove a lack, stayed in a lack and some Stacy Adams, you know, and this was prosthetics back in the '70s. But
Mm-hmm.
he had issues, man. He drank.
You know, we there's a program up here in Kansas City. I wish I about 2 or 3 years. No, actually, a little bit longer than that. They build tiny houses
Yeah.
for military vets. It's right up there, Jay, right off of Bannister and Troost.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's real good program. I think Bannister Home, my bad. But they build. I don't know what if they get federal funding. I'm pretty sure they do since it's dealing with vets. But they just build them basically a tiny house, maybe about it, and the house is 3, 4, 5, just like the size of a bedroom of a
Yeah.
law of a main bedroom.
Efficiency type deal.
Yeah, and it's so cool because they're taking homeless vets and trying to make them and give them this housing for a year. I think they said max it. I think it does have some type of max on it that
Mm-hmm.
they're there to help them transition.
Yeah.
You know, get them the
So it's
counseling.
definitely a problem, and you know now what we see with a lot of these enduring freedom, all these new guys that come. I'm saying new from 2001 up. You know, in a war pretty much as they took the towers down. You know what I mean? And now instead of getting counseling and whatnot, you just get medicated, and then these guys get strung out on it, and then you want to cut my medication,
Yeah.
and it turns into a real problem. Then you got to self-medicate, and that's never a good result. So it's a lot of people that do a lot of good for vets, but you know, sometimes again, just like everything else, we got to do something for ourselves and fix that problem. So
Yeah.
mental health is huge. It's huge because again, like even with us, we went to Desert Storm and we weren't in a hostile environment, but we came back to base, back to Fort Hood. I think we were there about a week or so, and yeah, you might sit down with somebody for a day or so. And you good? Yeah, I'm good, man. I just want to go home. All right, well, cool. Well, have a good time, and you're off. You see what I mean? And so that's an issue. But I mean, I've got people that I went to high school with that are fully disabled vets, but living great lives, man.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing
Yeah.
all right. It's not the worst thing out there. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, why we choose to go to jail or die, I'm like, nah.
And I'll say this too, because I feel like I don't want to disrespect our men and women of the military,
yeah.
the young men and women of the military, especially. But I just don't like the conditioning of it, and um, I understand that it's a lot of people want to bring that America first, but I think they should need to bring a human being first. We need to think of humanity first, and because when we think of something first, that's we're taking that territory and just basically stamping a flag on the territory and say, if you're not a part of
Yeah.
this territory, then you don't have any right you know, but we're all put on this earth to enjoy it, not just one's portion of it. We're here put on this earth to enjoy it, and in my opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the military stops that to saying, okay, hey, you shouldn't want to go to Russia, you shouldn't want to go to Saudi Arabia, you shouldn't want to go to Africa, you shouldn't want to go to South America.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know enough because I know. I won't say it's a regret, but one of the things I probably should have did is just went full time because, again, it gets you out of an environment you grew up in. I left, but I couldn't wait to get back home. Where a lot of people I went through training with, their next stop was Germany, Japan. You go out and get to see the world, man. And a lot of us don't get to see that. And for a lot of people that I know, it probably would have helped them to get out and see a different part of the world. Not only to kind of see how good we have it. Yeah, it sucks. There's a lot of not good things here, but I wouldn't trade it for anything else. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to go to not to stay.
Qatar
go enjoy my port, but no, I'm coming back to Texas, man.
Yeah, I feel you.
I can't wait to get back to Texas. When I travel, get me back to Texas. I'll go to jail in Texas, but don't.
like Brittany, is it Brittany?
Yeah, she in real trouble. I'm talking about Arkansas, though. You know what I mean? Like, give me that Arkansas, give me to Texas, and I'll be all right. But I mean, it's not for everybody. I understand that. Like my nephew, I got one that's killing it at Baylor and etc. And my brother's like, nah, man, he would never. Because you got a different life. But then my other nephew, who's, floating around trying to figure it out, like, dude, that military would have been so good for you, brother. You just don't know.
So you would encourage folks, young folks, to even look at it as an option.
100%. 100%, especially because if you don't have a real plan. Now, we were having this conversation about colleges earlier tonight. College isn't for everybody. You got trade schools, you've got, for example, insurance license. You can go insurance license in about 4 days. Pass a little pre-test, pass your test, and boom, you got an insurance license. So you can educate yourself numerous ways. You know what I mean? But if you don't have a real plan or you ain't figured it out, like in my case, I knew I wanted to go to college. We didn't have the money. We didn't have it like that. I'm the oldest. I had a brother and a sister behind me. I knew my parents couldn't be doing student loans and all that. I'm like, I got it. I'm out. My mother cried that day. I told her I'm signing up. No, please, because my dad went. You don't have to do this. Blah 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 blah. Like, I'm out, mama. I'm 18. I'm out. We'll figure it out from there. So in the long run, I look back. It really did help me. I ain't gonna say I didn't need the discipline and whatnot, but it's just a good experience, man. A lot of these kids ain't never been away from home ever. So join the military. Your drill sergeant is your mama and your daddy. You know what I mean? And your girlfriend sometimes. I'm just joking. But it gets you away from home and gets you into real life, and you've got to make some real life decisions. For example, I got in trouble one morning because I was supposed to be at PT training, and I was like, man, I'm tired, probably hungover, and I didn't go, and I paid the price. I didn't get to go out that weekend. They had me watching a horse stable or some bullshit like that. Bullshit. Like, I bet you won't do it again. Like, no, I won't. Yeah.
But you know what? I got a cousin who went to the Navy around the same time you went to the Army. And he was out there in the Pacific, where Thailand, Philippines, and whatnot. Yeah. And he talks very highly of it. He was stationed out in San Diego. And he talks very highly of it to this day. Yeah. All them years later. So
I
get it.
Again, I mean, most of us, we get a no from somebody else. You know what I mean? I had to make a decision. And if my mother had anything to do with it, she would have said no. No. And so I made a decision. I stepped up and did it. I didn't, nobody's trying to be a hero. I wasn't thinking about, well, what if, I mean, honestly, it's a funny story. I'm thinking I'm joining Texas National Guard. So if something jump off, we get to defend Texas. You know what I mean? They call us up. They're like, hey, Operation Red Bull. Like, what? Yeah, what does that mean? Like, dude, get up here. We're going to Saudi. Wait a minute. But
Saudi, Texas?
Yeah. Paris, Texas. But,
that's on the east side of Texas, right?
Yeah, man. West Texas people talk funny. But I do. I mean, I really do. I got a couple of kids we coached over the years, man, and college didn't work out for them. Like, dude, the military will help you, and it's such a great value today. Now, granted, you are risking your life, but you're doing that anyway. But to go and serve 4 years and get a ticket to go to college and get paid while you go to school, and you can't all play football.
Yeah, like I said, I got respect for folks who do it.
But
let me speed you up a little bit though, Mr. Redix.
All right.
So I know after military you did a little work in here and there, but then you spent some years doing financial advising, right?
Yes, sir.
How many years you do that?
Well, I'm still doing it to this day. And I saw your question again. So I started when I got back, I went to work. I'm like, I gotta get to work. Worked in a warehouse, hated it. But I was skilled in the art of typing. And that's when those call centers started coming to town, and that was what they required, was typing. Man, and I got in a call center, one led to another. I ended up at a company called Citibank, just customer service, and there were some guys downstairs. What do y'all do? Oh, we're licensed advisors. I can pass the test. Long story short, passed the test, got into financial services. And that's where things started to change for me. And, I had to study for months to pass my Series 763, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's where it started started Citibank, got on with them. And then that's the USAA people. I went to work for them for about 12 years on their financial side. And I didn't even know USAA did investments back then. They don't do it anymore. That department is gone. But that's how I got into that. And then it was crazy to be serving military people who were like me. So I could definitely relate. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I know Private Redix. I know what you're doing on Saturdays, bro. I did it. So it was amazing. And again, if one of your questions was financial literacy, and a lot of that starts at home. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, if you
but it doesn't for a lot of folks though.
Well, but the ones that learn it, they learn it from somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I use my brother, for example. He learned it from somebody else, but now he's teaching it. You know what I mean? God bless my parents, love them to death. They couldn't teach us about financial literacy. They didn't
That's
know.
what I say. I say that about a lot of our parents who were born in the 40s, 50s, and some of them even in the 60s. Yeah. They weren't taught. They didn't teach us that.
Right.
So it's
they did the best they could with what they had. And I always thank my parents for that. They definitely try to keep me out of trouble and stuff. But
we got to remember that our people were deprived a lot of stuff back in the day.
A lot of stuff.
A lot.
They were deprived a whole lot. So what they did have, they passed it on to us. Now we're in a new day and age where lots available to us, right? A lot of education, a lot of, where you can go get a course, you can go read, you can go learn a lot of things. So now it is, it's imperative for us to really learn it and then pass it on to our children.
Yeah.
Because to me, financial literacy is more than just open your savings account and dump money in it and leave it alone.
Right.
Well, that's what we was taught. Get your savings account.
Yeah.
Put it in money and leave it alone.
That's people that taught us knew. They didn't know anymore.
Right. But there's so much now between, investing, I mean, I learned about 401k on the job, of course, 'cause I had a corporate job. So I learned about 401k, but I didn't know anything about it. I just opened one up and was like, okay.
They told you to.
Yeah, they told you to, and we'll put money, we'll match it.
We got something for you. I don't even know what a 401k is.
Right.
Stock option plan, man. We don't know. I got a quick story about a stock option plan, and I didn't know nothing about it. And the way it worked was you put in X amount of dollars, they took it out of your check for 2 years, every pay period, X amount of dollars for 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, you get your info, your stocks, right?
Yeah.
And so, back then, like, dog, $50, that's beer money, man. I'm not doing that. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, it's real money. And sure enough, what happened in those 2 years was the amount you put down, say 2,500. In those 2 years, that stock price doubled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So your 2,500 turned into 5, turned into 10. If you put 10, it turned into 40. You know what I mean? It just exponential. Like, I missed that one.
And that's a good side of it. But see, my side of that I work for MCI, and people that know that I work there, they'll know the story. We have an option plan too. We put in options. We put in options. We put in money for these options, and they kept telling us it's gonna, it's gonna grow. It's gonna be great. Well, then MCI got bought by WorldCom. Then they had a big scandal.
I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we lost all those options. We didn't get no money. We got laid off. I lost. So that didn't pan out for me in that aspect.
And if you look at it now, that's why you see a lot of companies that offer these plans. You can only put so much into the actual company stock. They'll offer another plan through another firm to say, oh, you can diversify this, that, and the other. My mother worked for AT&T for years. It used to be Southwestern Bell, And she was like, I don't like that stock that moving up and down. So she did real well. They got pension money, et cetera. But she could have did great had she invested, but we didn't know. We just, when you talk about, especially us, there's not too many people that look like us to do what we do. And so, we still got a trust factor out there. I don't know, man. Or if we talk to somebody, it's always not the most trustworthy person. So
Right. Because not every advisor is actually working in your favor.
No.
How do you overcome that as a insurance agent or financial advisor now?
For me, I always offer my services, you know what I mean? And Jason knows, like, if I don't know, I'm gonna find you the answer. I'm gonna get you somebody that knows. And where we fail is we don't put the value in the money spent for those services, right? You've got a large sum of money and you need to go to an advisor, interview 3 of them. Don't just go to somebody because Frank said, hey man, go see Mike. Man, Frank said go see Mike. So I'm gonna go see Mike. Put all my money with Mike. I don't know nothing about Mike. Look him up. There's FINRA check. Interview, and that's what I tell everybody. Interview you 2 or 3 brokers or advisors and see which one you like. If you don't like them, interview 3 more. But get you some true advice. Don't talk to your boy who does, I'll pick on Jason, who does IT and see if he can help you with your investments. His financial situation is different than yours, Frank, which is different than mine. So that all needs to be taken into account. We see a lot, especially now, I see a lot about, I think there's another one of your questions, the ULs and the UILs and all them life insurance policies and this, that, and the other. Like, man, those are sophisticated products. It's not, hey man, I'm gonna put this money in there and become my own bank and do this. That doesn't work for $20 a month. It really does. It really doesn't work for $20 a month.
Right.
$2 million I can put aside. It works great.
Yeah.
And you still need to figure out. There's a lot that needs to go into that. And again, we talk about fiduciary responsibility. It's do what's right for the people that are out there, right? It's not about me and me making my commission and my money. Do what's right for Jason. Get them on the right path. And so a lot of times, though, again, we don't trust it. We don't know enough about it, so we don't trust it. And we do nothing. We say, nope, I'm not doing that 401k because I don't understand what a match is, so I ain't matching nothing.
So what would you recommend? And I don't know if you can give this advice, but if you have to speak in generalities, I understand. But let's say if someone comes to you with 1,000 or 2,500 to say, hey, I want to do something to where I can maximize this in a year, 2 years, in 1 to 2 years. What would you?
I'm gonna tell them to keep that money in your pocket. Just keep that in your pocket, though.
Really?
Yeah. I am a fan. I'm not gonna advertise, my man, but again, we talk financial literacy. You got to pick up the Dave Ramsey book. Dave Ramsey Financial Peace, Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. It helps you walk through those steps. And I'm not saying that 1,000 or 2,500 couldn't be good, but for most of us, it's paying off that 20% credit card.
Yeah.
That's a guaranteed return on your money right there. But we don't look at math like that. Just like your investor psyche is different than your shopper psyche. For example, if I go to Macy's and I can buy 2 polo shirts for $100 instead of 1, I'm going to take that 2 for 1, right? That's a deal. It's on sale. I don't know where the market is right now, but if you see where Apple is, it's down from where it has been. And we say, nah, I want to wait to invest in them. I'm going to wait till it gets back up. Like, no, you buy low, sell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of, and we fought that a lot on being an advisor. Like, well, I don't want to invest in that because it's down. Like, you don't want to buy it high and come down. You want to buy low and sell high. But that goes back to fear and greed. That's the two emotions that drive investors: fear and greed.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube and rate and follow us on your favorite podcast platform.
Do you recommend them looking at things like the smaller companies? I wouldn't call them smaller companies, but smaller investment opportunities like Coinbase or those smaller companies
Well,
like that.
what I always used to tell people is invest what you know. Right. So if I do IT and I deal with companies like Dell and blah, 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 that's in the IT world, that might be a good place to start. I deal in financial services, so I'm going to focus more on the banks and the investment.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I don't know crypto, man, don't be messing with no crypto. You're going to hurt your feelings.
Don't try to get on a YouTube channel and watch that.
Yeah, man, them dudes. Yeah. It's not sound financial advice. If you got a couple grand you want to just burn, not go to the club with it, it's not a bad little gamble.
Mm-hmm.
You got about as much chance as hitting as you would going to Vegas with that $2 grand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It happens, but it takes a lot of research, a lot of time, patience. A lot of people lack patience. They think it's going to be boom.
Mm-hmm.
Buy this today and I'm going to cash out 20 grand tomorrow and I'm going straight to Gucci. Like, nope. But when I used to trade actively back, this is, I got licensed around the .com boom, the first one. And so, man, it was worse than crack.
Mm-hmm.
You up online reading news stories, going to different pages. You up in the middle of the night because the markets are open overseas, and I'm trying to get ready for the morning open. And I mean, it was crazy. I'm like, dude, this is very addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very addictive. But I mean, again, go back to financial literacy. Have a solid foundation. I use this thing called a pyramid of advice, and so part of what we look at is just that the base of your house, your financial house, needs to be solid. Insurance. I know we're going to talk about insurance, but insurance is critical to your financial well-being. You know what I mean? Insurance is the protection against the unexpected. Now we should all expect to die because we do know that's a guarantee, but life insurance is critical. And I want to say this real fast. That is our tool to level the playing field. You see what I mean? Because our grandparents didn't have them GM jobs and Ford jobs. We didn't get them. So we didn't have those things to roll over. But that's how you pass that wealth on to the next level. And hopefully they get some education so they know what to do with it once it happens. You know what I mean?
I will say this, man, and this is one of the things that I think is critical. About 10 years ago, love my mama, but I wanted to have an insurance talk with her. And one of the things that I learned is that generation, they don't like to have that talk, first off. And secondly, they don't want to have it with their kids. Right. And I'm trying to tell my mom, I'm trying to let her know, hey, mom, it's not a thing of I want you to die, but there's something about leaving a legacy for our whether it be a 25, 50 or $100,000 legacy, some type of legacy. We of course want to leave something bigger, but when talking to the older generation like that, they don't want to talk about it, and then they're passing it on to their kids. But I
got an answer for that too. I thought about it. It's because we've been brainwashed, right? And so we didn't get that advice. You look at the people in their same age bracket of a different race. They do insurance. They do wills. They do it.
At an early age, they know
at
about
an early age. But we got bad advice because we're not supposed to come up. They don't want you to come up.
You know what?
Black people didn't invent insurance. You know what I'm saying? They don't want you to come. That's why they tell you, Jason, you don't need that, boy. No, you don't want to do that life insurance.
Yeah.
But it's a way to come up.
No, but to Frank's point, though, that is 100% correct.
Yeah.
I was on a course last night, investment course, and he was talking about, we don't talk about death for some reason. We don't talk about death. It's real. It's going to happen. What we avoid talking about all other kind of bullshit. talk about anything else that matters that means nothing.
Yep.
But
Hmm.
real life stuff, death, insurance,
Mhm.
passing on this. Oh, I don't talk about that. Blah, blah,
Video,
blah, blah. But it's gonna happen
powers
though.
of attorney.
Are
Yeah,
you ready? Are you
right,
prepared?
right.
How am
Yeah.
I gonna bury you? All that kind of stuff.
What are your wishes? Even if I can bury you, where do you want to be?
No,
Hmm.
it's
You want,
all like I
yeah.
got figured
Don't
out
talk
when you
about
go. Like
it. Yeah.
okay,
But
it's
again, you got to remember we got some bad inputs for about 400 years, right? We got bad input, and it's a lot of reprogramming that needs to happen amongst us, these
yeah,
people right here, to understand the legacy that can be left. I always think of Ray and them. You know they bad. You know they in the streets. You know what they doing. Why not insure that young man?
Put a policy on.
Put 100,000 on him, so if something happen, Mama can get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And change the dynamic for those that are behind them. You know what I mean? It's not it's what I always tell people, life insurance is not a lottery ticket. It's income replacement. It's money that is lost that cannot be generated anymore. So you talk about a married couple, and somebody will say, well, man, $1 million, that's crazy. Well, if you make 50 grand a year, that's 20 years of income. That's it.
Yep.
With no raise. So
Yeah.
you want to change your lifestyle. And most people, if they were to get any money, they go blow it. That comes back to financial literacy.
Dude, I've had a couple friends who their parents, unfortunately they died when that person was young
Yeah.
and 20 something, um, and left 250 or $500,000. It's
Yep.
gone. It's gone.
In about 3 weeks.
And yeah, and so it's sad because
Yeah.
at that point you really have to learn about you really should understand about the literacy, and maybe that's a responsibility for us. So if I have $1 million policy for my kids when they pass, I need to also have something in place to where they're not pulling that money out immediately. They put it in and they have to have it into an annuity or something.
Or you need a trust.
Yeah,
That's what a trust
exactly.
will do. A trust speaks for you when you pass. You see what I mean? This is what you can do with that money. You don't get it if you're not doing these things.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But again, it's a multifaceted deal. So I got to set up the legacy planning, but I also need to be teaching my kids right now so that when it does fall in their lap, it's not a shock. We see it
Hmm.
all the time with, I'm gonna say, NFL and NBA players. These guys are making tremendous amounts of money, and by the time they play their last game, they're done. They're broke. They got to go sell. You ain't even finished college.
Right, right.
League at 18. It's very few of them that live a great life afterwards because they don't have the financial literacy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Look at Tim Duncan. He trusts his money to somebody. They just stole all his money.
Wow.
15 grand. 15 million.
Right. The good thing I appreciate about my daughter's mom is I called my daughter probably about 2 months ago, and I'm like, hey baby, what are you doing? Like, oh, me and mom about to meet with my financial advisor.
Love it.
So that she has money in there. She's learning at 14 years old
Yeah.
what to do with that money, and
That's dope. That's
later
dope.
on. That's tight.
It
I
is.
truly respect her mama for that.
Yeah.
That's
Real
dope.
dope.
Because we do that. We open accounts for our children, put money away, like you said, have these policies, but then we also got to train them up on how to
Hmm.
Yeah, we
how
got to train
to
them.
manage the money.
Right.
Because if they can't manage money, it doesn't matter what you give them. Like you
Yeah.
said, they drop a whole load on their lap. They be like, "Oh, I'm rich," and then
Hmm.
they
When,
broke.
when I was advising, part of what we dealt with was people getting killed in action, right? So the military benefit is $500,000. And sometimes we were trying to sell them additional coverage, not to give them more money, but if something happens and you got to get out, you got a policy in place, you just keep it going. And man, you'd be amazed because again, you're dealing with a lot of young people that have no experience with money. So all
Hmm.
of a sudden, here's little Maria, whose her husband got killed overseas, and call gets transferred to me. What's going on? How you doing? Oh man, my husband passed. Condolences, etc. What are your plans? See what she's talking about. I'm gonna go buy a Hummer. I'm gonna go buy 2 houses. I'm gonna go no.
Hmm.
Don't buy anything.
Hmm.
What to do with that money because it's gonna be gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah,
You only get one shot at it. Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes you can.
yeah,
Yeah.
Financial literacy is key for our survival. But again, you got to remember, like I said, We missed a lot of class.
We did, and I think we're so used to working for money. We
Yeah.
haven't got into our minds make money work for us.
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah. So we gotta train our young people.
It's all that flash. You know what I mean? Everybody wants that flash. Man, I gotta floss at the club, and I'm like,
man.
But you talking to a bunch of old dudes now, so it makes a lot of sense. I can tell, like my boy said, if I hit the lick when I was young, I'd have been gone. I'm in the club. I'm wearing Gucci, everything.
Right.
Well,
diamonds in the grill, all diamonds.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, iced out, icy.
On Westheimer.
Well, let me ask you this, because I believe in, especially life insurance and those policies. I think a lot of times though, some people, they don't believe in like auto insurance and things like that. We're forced to get those, right? Because it's a law. You gotta have a policy for life insurance. You gotta, sure you. And people think it's a racket, all right? Because you pay and you pay, in the hopes you don't gotta use it. But if you do get in an accident, you gotta use it. Then either you get dropped or your policy jumps up. How do you dispel that? All
right, so let me break it down. I'll be brief. I see our time's running out. So I told you 4-part series. All right, number one, and it's going to go back to financial literacy. Your insurance premiums are driven by credit. I'm going to say it again. Insurance premiums are driven by credit. So when Keisha comes to me with her little 2012 Nissan Altima and her premium is $328, seems a bit excessive. If I ask her how's her credit, she's going to say, yeah, because that car really isn't that expensive to insure. No. But it's driven by credit, number one, okay? Number two, it can be a racket per se, but in the end, it's how you recover from the unexpected, right? So, and then we were talking about this the other day, Jason. If you do it right, that's how you protect your income. Again, most people are like, nah, give me that minimum wage stuff, but you're not minimum wage people, right? So in other words, in the state of Texas, minimum limits are $30,000 per person, 60 for the accident, 25 for your property. But if you make 100 grand, those numbers don't add up. You need to have your insurance limits closer to your income because that's what protects your income. When you see these people saying, I had to get a lawyer to sue and do all this, they're not squeezing blood from a turnip, I think the old people say. You know what I mean? They're suing the limits of the policy. And so on the uninsured side, because your uninsured cannot exceed your liability, that's why you have higher liability limits. So if you make 100,000, your limits need to look more like 100, 300, 100. Not for the guy that I hit, but for the fool that hits me uninsured, so that I can make sure I replace my lost income in the event. You know, I talk to a lot of people, doctors, lawyers, everybody. I don't need that. I don't need that. Hopefully you don't get sued. The other side is, of course, litigation.
Yeah.
But I've learned a lot on the auto side of insurance, because even as a financial advisor, we didn't understand it. You know, like I used to call, get a new car. Yeah, okay, what? Yeah, I just need insurance. Like, oh, it's a lot more to it than that. That's a whole other call. But there's a lot more to it than just having insurance down the road. You know, my dad had an accident. We raised their limits, luckily. It was probably a bunch of BS, but bottom line, the guy ended up winning 50, 60, 70 grand. My parents didn't pay a dime because they had the limit to cover it. It's part of their premium. And yeah, they got dropped, but they came back. You know, I mean, it's what it is. But that's really the purpose of the insurance, is to protect against that nonsense. So if they had a minimum limit of 30, the guy sues for 100. If they win, somebody's on the hook for 70. Where's that come from? Now that's where you got to start looking at what we're going to do with the house. And we don't have 70 grand laying around. So insurance, again, as we get older, we understand the value of that product. Yeah. But a lot of people miss the boat on the credit. And they want to, man, my insurance premiums are always sky high. I don't care who I call. It's because your credit's bad.
Check your credit, bro. Check your
credit. Your credit's bad. It's because we can't trust you. I'm going to pick on Keisha. We can't remember, your credit is a trust score. Can I trust you, Frank, to pay my money back on time? I don't know. This 520 you have says I can't. You have, I don't know what you have, but I'm saying, but your 520.
522.
522.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, I'm gonna charge you 22.99 on it. You know what I'm saying? It's real.
Yeah.
It's real. It took me a long time. I mean, trust me, I'm a public enemy. I fought all the systems. I ain't doing it. Oh, that's so and so. Like, man, it's okay to conform to a couple of things. You ain't got to sell your soul. I mean, you don't have to sell your soul to conform, but there's a few things that we need. And like I said, that's another topic, but credit, man. Credit is your biggest asset. Here's an example. I don't have $500,000 to go buy this house, but I have good credit. I can put a little money down. I can get this money, whatever, for $2,500, $3,000 a month, and I'm straight because I have good credit.
Like they say cash rules everything around me. Credit rules everything around me. That's the truth.
Yeah. Big facts, Mr. Redix, Mr. Insurance, Mr. Financial Advisor, private Redix, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, private. Yeah, he was a bad dude.
Yeah. Well, look, man, like you said, we up against it. It was
all right.
Very informative. Hang out for a minute. Don't jump off when I hang up after this.
Okay. Like I said, we need to schedule a few because I can go deeper.
Well, I know you can go.
Well, I said we just touched a certain dude. I'm just, we can have a whole. I have to get the Jedi over here for the whole credit cover. You know what I mean? But it's real, man. And I think if we really just kind of invest in it and quit, there are certain things we can fight against. I'm all about police for all that nonsense. But hey, man, credit is our tool.
Yeah.
We're letting these people talk us out of it. They talk you out of having good credit so you can have bad credit. So they can maximize you, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that me and Jason talked about, we're gonna get. I told him a couple of weeks ago that I want us to get a seminar together to where we're putting some people who know some shit. I mean, we may have to throw a couple of different seminars about it, but one of the things that I really want to do is talk about money, have a money seminar, and you will be a great person to have on there where you can talk 10, 15 minutes about, hey, here's what you can do, and invite people on there. And so look for that real soon. Kings Can Move On World. Look for that real soon.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, me and Frank started this thing so we can help folks, especially our young people. So we want to have people like you, informed people with knowledge and information that can share, that can help somebody make a better decision. Like we said, people don't realize credit pushes insurance premiums. People don't realize how important that stuff is. So we want to just educate and inform. So, again, appreciate you coming out, bro. Appreciate the information. Big Frank, got anything? Or we good?
I'll just tell people like this, man. Thank you, Big Mike, for coming out, man, and sharing your story today. And one of the things that he just hit on that's truly important is the insurance. And just to go back on that, I'll just tell a little story. My pops died in '94. Before he died, my mom in February of that year, February that year, my mom kept getting something in the mail, insurance thing in the mail, saying credit insurance, saying, "Hey, pay off your house if something happens to a loved one or something." And she had ignored it. But back that February before my pops died, she filled it out and sent it on in, filled out paperwork, sent it on in. Unfortunately, he died in August of that year. And my mom, although she had to go through some things as far as they wanted to make sure that he didn't have the illness before she put the policy in force, or they put the policy in force. They wanted to make sure of that. But it came about a year later, within a year, that my mom and dad's house was paid off. Exactly. And they weren't going to be able to do that until, it was '94 when he passed. They probably wouldn't have paid the house off until this year.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah. So, insurance is a good thing to have, and talk to someone about that. And you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to build your legacy. That's the main thing, in my opinion, for what insurance is for. Build something for the people that you love, your child, your mother, your father, your brother, sister, or your wife or husband. Build it for somebody that you love. And I'll leave it on
It's
that.
actually we call it love insurance, because that's, you got to love somebody to do it, because it's not,
Yeah.
it really is for you. There's other uses of life for estate planning, et cetera, but really on the rawest level, it's for somebody else. It ain't for you.
Right.
It is. Look out for somebody else, especially you love them.
Yeah.
So with that, Big Mike, thanks for coming out. Big Frank,
Lil Jay.
Kings move on, y'all.
Hey.
Tip. All right, brother.
If you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to subscribe and like us on our YouTube channel, and rate and follow us on your favorite podcast platform.